To go. Run him. Stay on him. That him, boy. Angela, that's a sack on the ball. Good job.
Take me back into another time when we were still in love, a different life. It's a different life.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Brothers Blitz podcast. Woo! That's right, we are here. I am Jordan, and right over there is
Fox.
Hey.
What's going on, everybody?
That's right. So we are going to be talking about the upcoming slate of games, week 2 of the NFL after
Yeah, week 2.
Yes,
Let's go.
after a predictably crazy week 1, because what else is a week 1 for?
Chaos reigns.
Yeah. So we are recording this on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th.
Spooky. Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm expecting so many problems now with this recording.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Oh man, is that a good omen? Because I want to watch Halloween movies after this.
Oh,
so.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just put
Yeah, it might be a bad omen.
They just put Trick or Treat on Max. So.
All right.
It's a fun one. That one's less scary though. That one's more like
Oh, okay.
funny,
Okay, gotcha.
funny horror for the most part.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like Zombieland kind of thing.
Not quite like that. It's more horror than that, but it's
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's a little more tongue in cheek though. It is tongue in cheek.
Gotcha. I'll have to look for it.
No, it's a good one.
Anyways.
It's a good one. Just for everybody. There's also we're going to
There
be
you go.
reviewing Halloween movies. No.
Haha, gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to be getting into that. I got really lost in the second thing about like, oh man, I got to see the new Beetlejuice movie too. And then I was like, oh, no, okay, that's it.
It was really good.
Getting
It was
lost.
really
good. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about Thursday first. We're gonna start with the Thursday night game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Bills
Yeah.
at Dolphins,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna first just talk about the game side. We'll talk a little bit about the Tua stuff after
Yeah,
here. But
yeah.
on the
As like everybody's doing, everybody's like beating the Tua subject into the ground. No pun intended.
yeah. So let's talk about, just because that happened pretty late in the game.
Mm-hmm. It did, yeah, yeah. Which was kind of crazy, which we'll get to.
Yeah, because it's kind
I
of
have some
similar
thoughts.
with like the Jordan Love injury. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously much different
yeah.
in the effects because of Tua's history with concussions. But
Sure.
I just mean like, it's like when I watched, and I don't want to go too far back, but when I watched the Eagles-Packers game, since we didn't really have a chance to talk about it together,
Right.
it was like Love was kind of actually more on the end of what I was kind of predicting for the year.
Mhm. Right.
So like where it was just like, yeah, it's just like we're just assuming he's going to be this good and everything's going to be smooth, and then you're watching
Mhm.
the game and the Packers, and it's like the only reason why the Packers had a chance was because Jalen Hurts was making mistakes.
Yeah, he was making a ton of mistakes, and
yeah.
like credit to the Packers defense at some point. Pardon me, just a second.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, it's like the Dolphins. I mean, because I predicted the Dolphins to miss the playoffs and stuff, so that was like another one of like watching the Dolphins. Watching them against the Jags too, and they should have lost to the Jags if they didn't.
They really should have lost the Jags. Like, come on, Jags, can you learn how to close out a
I
fucking
know
game?
it's terrible,
Jesus.
just terrible. And then it's like, and then this week it's like, yeah, I mean, like you've got talent and stuff. You're probably going to do the same thing where you're going to beat some bad teams, but anytime you
Yep.
get a team that has a decent pulse, you're just
Yeah,
gone.
I mean there was that meme that was going on last night that I sent you as well. I think it was that Moneyball episode or Moneyball scene, and it's Jonah Hill going to Brad Pitt. Billy, this is the Miami Dolphins. They're one of the most electrifying offensive units in the game today, with high end talent to match. Their only defects are that they are absolutely useless whenever playing a playoff caliber team or in the freezing cold,
right,
which is
yeah.
true.
yeah, exactly. It really is. And so it's just something that they can't seem to fix, and that's one.
No.
And that's one that you wonder if that's where the Tua limitations are. It's like, is that where the quarterback limitations
Well, that
are?
and maybe like, I mean, I thought about it last night too. Is like maybe I think they were just too quick to extend McDaniel, honestly,
Maybe.
because he hadn't really proved anything. Like he got them to the playoffs, and they hadn't been there in so long. Like, I think they got, like, it's easy in hindsight, but you want to extend, like, a good coach who gets you to the playoffs for the first time in a long time. But, you know, he hasn't really done anything since then. And there are some games, like watching that game against the Jaguars and watching that game last night, it's like this dude almost refuses to adapt and adjust, because it seems like especially playoff caliber teams have now figured out how to beat them. Even if Tyreek's going to go off or have like a big ass touchdown, like it doesn't really matter, because they figured out the rest of the offense. They figured out how to rattle Tua, and McDaniel just seems incapable of adjusting. So I think that's part of the problem when they face playoff teams.
Well, you see, actually, so I think that could be true. The other possibility too, I think, is like, and this is still a little bit of going to be on McDaniel, but also the GM, is like, or did you only build your team one way?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's like, no, we can't adjust, because literally these guys, some of these guys cannot do that. I mean, like Tyreek Hill, you could plug into any system, right? But
right.
You know, it's like, are some of these guys just not capable of doing these things? So it's just like, no, this is who we are. This is the thing we can do, and that's it. That's the
right.
But I mean, because it is hard with like the McDaniel extension of just like, but it's like, but because Miami was so, and you were alluding to it, but because they were so terrible, I don't think it was too quick, because it's like, if it's just a couple more years of playoff caliber, like, you know, maybe not always getting in, but sometimes getting in, that may be good enough to then, after this extension, move on. And now you've got, you've got a culture of like, no, we are at least a playoff caliber team.
Right,
we can now hopefully attract playoff caliber coaches. And,
and who can build a team that can, you know, win on both sides of the ball and not just through the air.
Yeah. So then it just becomes about building on that rather than
And it was so funny, like when I was watching that game last night, and then when I saw that meme later on after the game, and I went back to it, I was like, man, this is like watching the Dan Marino Dolphins all over again. Back in the mid to late 90s, like they'll pass you, they'll tear you apart in the passing game, but they can't run the ball, and they're not built for the cold, which is why they keep losing.
Though I will say, watching, I didn't get to watch the whole game because I was performing a show, but Achane ran tougher than I expected.
Achane, he had a really good game. Probably one of the only bright spots for the Dolphins last night.
Just like, he was getting into contact and stuff. He was pushing guys a little bit. And like, just not something that you were expecting. I mean, now who knows, because he has injury history, so it's like, is that really good for you? But but still, like, that part in itself was impressive too. And then, I mean, and for the Bills, it's just like, it's kind of like, I mean, we were kind of both on this, even though I picked the Bills to go to the playoffs. I didn't pick them to win the division. We'll see how my Jets thing holds up. Yeah. But,
and that prediction looks pretty damn good right now. Sitting at 2-0.
But I still picked them to go 12-5, where a lot of people were fading the Bills. And I think we were both kind of on the same thing of just like, when you have a quarterback that's that good.
Yeah.
And also it's like, because you're counting them out so much, it's like it feels like they're just being overlooked. It's like, it felt everybody turned right too hard. You're just like, whoa, you're just like selling all of your Bills stock.
Like you almost over course corrected after they lost to the Chiefs last year.
Yeah, exactly. And because of the pieces that they lost, and it's like, even though the Texans were able to get a couple touchdowns out of Diggs, it seemed like he was worn out. He'd worn out his place with the Bills. And it's like, it's probably nicer not having him in the building, like this guy.
It absolutely is. And it's interesting that you say that, because when I was watching the Texans-Colts game early on, Diggs had already caught a touchdown at that point, but they showed a shot of him on the sideline still complaining.
Yeah.
So it was like, I saw that, and then when the Bills were coming back during that Cardinals game, I kind of looked at both screens and went, I actually think this is really good for the Bills that Stephon Diggs is not there, because he's not as diva-ish as other wide receivers have been, but like, I think he's just quieter about it.
Yeah, he's not as diva-ish on the like social media outside stuff. But in the building he is, which is just as harmful. But I mean, and I think that's what you're kind of seeing on the Bills end, is like Josh Allen is sort of free to just
he doesn't have to force it to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, nobody's.
And Man, we can talk about that real quick. Josh Allen was ridiculous last night. That guy was slinging the ball everywhere. And it was like the Bills had absolutely no answer for him whatsoever. Or the Dolphins, sorry.
Yeah.
Dolphins, sorry. Yeah, they had no answer for that guy.
Well, to be fair, the Bills
whatsoever.
defense probably wouldn't either if they were playing him, but
Yeah, they probably wouldn't. No.
They're like, yeah, during practice we have no answer for him either. I don't know.
But there was because I was at Buffalo Wild Wings when I was watching the second half of it after I got off work, and it was whoever the color commentator was, I can't remember who it
for
is.
who?
Right
I'm
now.
sorry.
For the color commentator for Amazon Prime.
Oh,
But anyway, he pointed out, he was like, it's like, so when you said like everybody's sort of overlooking the Bills because the way they took way too hard of a right turn, and then he goes, it feels like Josh Allen's playing with a big chip on his shoulder, and I'm not sure that's something you really want.
no, I mean, it's
If you're in the AFC.
yeah, it's kind of worked out, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kurt.
It is still Kirk Herbstreit. Yeah.
Kirk
So
Herbstreit, yeah.
yeah. So he said that, and I was like, yes, I 100% agree with that. You do not want Josh Allen playing with a chip on his shoulder, but I agreed watching him last week and this week, like, that dude's playing differently than he did last year.
Yeah.
And maybe it's one, that, like, having a chip on his shoulder, and two, again, I think maybe Stephon Diggs being gone, like you just said, like, he's free to throw the ball wherever the hell he wants.
Yep.
Wherever the hell there's an open man.
Yeah,
and where he thinks
exactly.
he can
You
find
know,
space,
and Cook's looking really good.
Yeah, he did. He looked really good last night.
Though fantasy-wise, if he could throw it to Kincaid a little bit more, I would be happier. But so that's,
there is I was watching one stream this morning, and this one dude who commented during the stream, he's already up by 60 points because he had A-Chain as his flex and then Cook as his regular running back. So he was up by 60 points already.
And because I had a show, A-Chan was a game time decision, so I wasn't sure I'd be able to do it. So I had to put him on my bench because I'm like, I'm not going to be able, if he's out, I'm probably not going to be able to put him on the bench. So I had to put him on the bench for my own safety. And I'm like, oh, of course he plays.
Of course he plays and goes off a little bit.
Yeah, it gets like 26 points or something like that. Yeah.
But before we get too far into fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was
like the Bills just like before that Tua even went out, like you said, like he was late in the game, and he went out late in the game, but the Bills were just picking them apart even when Tua was on the field. And that Bills defense was flying all over the field.
Yeah.
My God. It was like Tua didn't really have a whole lot of time. I don't know what the hell he was thinking with that pick six when he just like flung it up there.
That he was trying to get it out of bounds, I think.
I know that, but it reminded me of the Will Levis throw against the Bears at that point. Like, dude, take the sack, man.
Yeah.
Just take the fucking sack.
I know. It's one of those things too that showed like, oh, that's actually a point where the lack of arm strength can be a problem. Like, you know,
right, that like, too, yeah. But even if you have great arm strength, like when you're going down like that, your arms only like way back
and he was
here.
pretty far away from the sideline there too. So it was
like no amount of arm. Like even Aaron Rodgers is not gonna get that ball out of bounds.
Yeah. So it's like you're trying to and you're trying to get it at least to the line of scrimmage and out of, it's just like all
and out of bounds, right? Or at least past the line of scrimmage and to drop in front of a receiver.
Right. Yeah.
Hit the ground, no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
But
that was a huge foul, actually.
It was. Yeah, led to 6 points.
But and then it was, and then that's probably, I mean, since that, I think maybe with the way that was going, especially with the 3 picks, that's actually in some ways maybe led a little bit to a concussion too, because I think he was trying so hard to get them to come back. And it's what stinks is he had the first down too. It's like you could have slid.
Oh my God!
And you would have had the first down.
That right? He was way past the marker, and when I saw the replay right after, and I was like, dude, slide for God's sakes! Yeah, and because it was also crazy because earlier in the game, I kind of lost track of time, like in terms of like in real time or game time, but. There was a moment where Allen was also scrambling. It looked like he was going to put his head down, and then he kind of notices there's 3 Dolphins, and then he's like, yeah, no, never mind, and then just slides.
Right.
Short of the first down marker, but it's like, I'm not trying to pick up the extra 2 yards because it's still only going to be like 3rd down.
Yeah. Well, this was a 4th down play, though, for Tua.
It was, but even still, it was like, but like you said, he was way past the first down marker.
He was. He had it. He was like 2, I think he was like 2 yards past it at that point.
Yeah, but with Allen, it was like, I think he realized, like, I'm not putting my head down and try to get these 2 yards that we have another down to get.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to risk injury to myself. Let me just take the 6-yard gain on 2nd and 8. We'll go for it on 3rd and 2, obviously.
Yeah, and I wonder too, like playing a guy like Josh Allen, though, it's just like if for Tua, if he was like, no, I got to prove, and maybe there's some of that sad part where it's like, I got to, I've got this contract, I want to show people, that I'm going to put everything on the line. It's like, yeah, but your own safety is not worth putting on the line for football.
I think it was that, and I think it was no, it's not worth it for one. No, I think it's that, and then I think he was also just trying to make up for the 3 interceptions.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
yeah, and
like,
so
I swear to you, I am the guy, guys. Like, here, let me go out. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, and we don't know how the severity of the concussion. I mean, any concussion is severe just by nature.
Right.
But some are worse than others. But with him, it doesn't really matter. It's just like any concussion.
Because he's had 2 already, 2 or 3 really bad ones already.
I mean, this is the whole reason why Steve Young retired when he retired.
Yeah, he had 7 major concussions.
Yeah,
between like 1990 and then when he retired in 1999.
Right, and because it's real. Because it's like, and good for him that he did, because it's just like, like today, obviously he's very alert. He does TV. He does all these things. But if he had stayed playing, it may not. I mean, we know some terrible cases. The Junior Seau's the one that comes to mind off the top of my head. I mean, you've got some really horrific cases for this CTE kind of stuff. And
and wasn't I think it was Mike Webster, that Steelers offensive lineman.
Yeah.
His was really bad.
Yeah, so there's some horror stories. McDaniel's come out and he, like, because people keep asking about stuff. He's like, look, I don't want to talk about him on terms of his career, his future. Like, I don't even care about like the football implications. This is a day-to-day get healthy thing. He's like, that's what we're going to be focusing on, is day-to-day get healthy. Like, if you care about Tua, like, let's not even get into the career stuff, and the future stuff. And I think that's fair too.
Yeah, that was the absolute right way to handle that.
Right. It's just like, it's
100%.
like I'm worried about this guy who I know.
Right.
And
I'm worried about him as a human being.
Yeah. I just want him today to get healthier, and then the next day get healthier. That's what I want.
Right. And I liked Josh Allen's post-game interview too, when they asked him about it.
I didn't see that.
He basically said the same thing. He was like, I don't want to get into like the game and what his career is going to look like. I know him off the field, and I just want him to be safe and okay as a human being.
Yeah.
Because like, he's a great guy off the field, and obviously we're competitors on field, but like, I just hope he's okay as a person, as a human.
Yeah.
So that was awesome to see. I was like, yeah, good for you, Josh Allen.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's such a big thing, and people know about it, but we constantly, and we don't have to go on a huge soapbox, but we constantly overlook how the brain is the most important thing in our bodies. And for some reason, when that gets messed up, people just go, well, you just need to fight through it. It's like, it doesn't
work that way.
If your running back's leg was broken, you wouldn't go, well, he just needs to run.
He needs to fight.
If he just ran, he'd be fine. It's like, that's not how broken legs work. It's like,
or any physical injury works. That's nature.
Right. And so that part's sad too, because I'm sure people will be like that, And it's like, look, some people are more susceptible, and that sucks. That
they are, and you're more susceptible the more frequently you have them, which is why Steve Young kept getting them, and he kept getting them more severely.
Yeah. It doesn't build like a catalyst over your brain, it doesn't get stronger, right?
It actually tears down your whatever catalyst may have been there and makes it even easier for it to happen again.
Yeah. So it's a big deal. It sucks to see, and it sucks because at least in this one, he could have done something different. And now that's not like, oh, this is all your fault, Tua, sort of thing. But just like, it just like stinks to be like, oh man, if you just slid, probably would have been fine, you know. But also at the same time, it kind of shows like this was probably going to happen again at some point for Tua.
Yeah.
It was probably going to happen again. So is it better to just have it happen now, and I mean, well, not really. I don't think that's really.
No, not. I was
really because it's like, who knows? Because what if again was like 3 years from now? Like that would be better for him, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like the frustrating part when I saw it, it was like I wanted to reach through the screen and be like, "Come on, Tua, you gotta learn, man. it was like, you've already been through this twice really badly. Come on, man.
I
You
know.
gotta figure. I know it's hard, especially when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
You're trying to will your team to a comeback. I get it. But man, there's it is frustrating because I even early, like I had mentioned before, you see Josh Allen slide. I've seen it a couple times with Dak where he's like, no, I've learned to slide now. I'm not going to do this. And other countless quarterbacks have done it. That's where I'm like, other quarterbacks have learned this, man. You need to learn this or you're done.
Yeah.
And that would be really sad to see because when you're playing at a high level, you're really fun to watch.
Yeah.
You're great. So just learn.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, so that's it's a big it really stinks. So hopefully
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 he's okay. Obviously.
Yeah. But that's I think that's pretty much everything from
I think that pretty much covers Thursday night. Yeah.
So we're gonna
Because in terms of the actual game, it wasn't much of a game because the Bills just tore them apart.
Yeah, like I said, and I mean, it does make for anybody like us, hey, we can still pat ourselves on the back for being like, hey, well, don't just fade the Bills like they're suddenly not going to be a playoff team necessarily.
I never bought into that because in my head I always went, yeah, but Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
the guy's worth 9 wins on his own.
Right? Yeah.
They've got to pick up maybe 1 to 3 more, 1 to 2 wins to make the playoffs, 3 at maximum to win the division.
Right. Yeah,
they can do that.
Yeah. And the lack of Diggs seems to be a plus more than a minus overall.
100%. Which is also something I think I mentioned in an earlier pod. I think Stephon Diggs being gone is going to be good for this team.
Yeah.
And it's clear.
Yeah.
It is.
And this is actually just sort of just while I'm thinking about it, because this is just sort of a team building thing too. Because when you think about other teams like let's go with Chiefs and Niners, right?
Sure.
Is when the Chiefs, when it became too much about Tyreek Hill, they just got rid of him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Niners are also just sort of we'll have you as a top receiver, but also we're not going to play that game of we have to get you the ball specific. And then, but because that's the culture that they build, that's what everybody accepts. They just know, they know it's a non-starter. It's I might as well not complain about the ball because Kyle's going to be like, well, sorry.
Well, too bad.
Yeah.
The style of this offense is nobody is selfish and everybody gets a piece of the ball.
Yeah, and you better effing run block.
Yeah.
So and for the Bills, it makes sense that they didn't necessarily have that culture because before Allen, I mean, now they made it to the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor, but they were still building up that culture of just being a winning organization.
Right.
And then Diggs.
And we were really close to calling Josh Allen a bust at one point.
Yeah. And Diggs was a huge boon for them at the time and definitely helped and elevate. So it made sense that things became about him. And so now it's actually kind of nice for them to see that they're like, you know what, let's just move on. We believe in our culture. We believe in our team. And we can weather not having this number one wideout.
Right, not having this superstar player. Yeah.
And right now, I mean, obviously it's a long season, but right now it seems to be true. So
it seems to be true.
It's just something to keep in mind.
You mentioned with the Chiefs, everybody was like, "What's going to happen to the Chiefs?" Just kept on rolling.
Yeah. Again, of course, it helps to have Patrick Mahomes, but it also helps to have Josh Allen, who's also one of the top. However people put it, he's usually top 3.
Right.
So yeah, it's a big deal. All right, well, let's get into so some of the Sunday games here. So I know you've got games that.
I have some games that I'm interested in. I'll be honest, the week 2 slate's not great.
Yeah, which is funny whenever it's week 2, I don't know. Oh, but I will say the other thing but just for the week 1 stuff.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this because it gives the NFL credit. It was so great for the opening week to have the Thursday game, Friday game, and then you get the Sunday. It's not something I would want all the time, but when it's you're just getting back into football, it was really nice to have a really fun Thursday night game, a really fun Friday night game, and then you've got 1 day break, and then you get all of your Sunday games. It was kind of like a nice lead into the season where you don't have the Thursday game and now you got the 2-day break. You're like, oh man, I just want more football. It's like, no, you're literally going to get more football
the
next day, the next night.
And I was one of them when I woke up last Friday morning. I was like, man, that was fun. I gotta wait till tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
Yeah, so sadly, good job NFL.
Yeah. But
But
there is. Did you see that? There's like this weird bylaw from
there is,
1961.
yeah,
Yeah, so like the NFL's allowed to play a Friday night game through Labor Day week, and since Labor Day weekend was the weekend before,
Yeah.
they're allowed to play a Friday game that week until
like sometime in
they're not allowed to
December.
play another one till after like the first weekend in December
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah, because it's high school
So
football.
weird.
Yeah,
that for high school football. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
yeah. But people
anyways,
people also need to remember that football wasn't the mammoth that it was.
right. Like
I mean,
in 1961, baseball still ruled.
yeah, right, yeah. So
Like, and it wasn't even particularly
no,
close.
no. And they just didn't want to interrupt. I know there were whole reasons of not wanting to interrupt the high school games and like how things work
Right.
then. So
Well, especially in states like, I mean, southern states in Texas where high school football means just as
Uh-huh.
much to these people as college in the NFL. Like, it makes sense. Like, hey, we really love watching our kids play high school football, but we also really like your product. Can we make a deal here?
yeah,
That
yeah.
way we don't have to like choose between our kids and watching our team once a week.
Yeah. I also wondered with them too, because it's not like the players were making the money they were making. I don't
Right.
know this, so this is just me
Oh,
curious.
that's interesting.
I do wonder if
Yeah.
there were like players who were like, well, I want to watch my kid. I want to like, I'm involved
Right.
with other high school stuff, and then I play football on Sunday. Like I don't
That-
know
oh,
if there
that's
was stuff
interesting.
like
Yeah,
that.
I didn't think
too.
about that.
I
That
have
very much could have played a factor.
I don't know, but yeah, there could have been a bigger deal too. All right, so what's the
so
first game that you're kind of
Yeah,
looking
week
at
two
for
that I'm
week
kind
two?
of interested in. Weirdly, I didn't think I would be, but Seahawks Patriots.
Oh wow! Who would have thought?
I know. I saw it and was like, actually, I kind of want to watch this game because.
Well,
that
that's going to be
Patriots
my local game, so I'll get it.
Yay! No, I'm interested in that game because I want to see if that Patriots defense is actually for real.
Yeah.
Because they beat the living piss out of that Bengals team. And I know, like, you had a reluctant Jamar Chase, you had no T. Higgins, and the Bengals under Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow, this whole era, they notoriously start really slow. But the Patriots just like punched them in the mouth.
Mhm.
Like they were just all over them. And then I want to see if that run game they had going, the Patriots did.
Yeah.
I want to see if that continues. Like maybe they actually have something there. Because if they do, if they have that like really stout defense along with a manageable offense that can help you put up like 16, 20 points, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team, but they could go way against what I thought they would be at 1-16 and end up pulling out like 6 to 7 wins and then be really frisky and even in the games they lose. So that's what I'm interested to see.
Well, yeah, and I mean it kind of. So there's a couple of things with that on the Patriots end. Is one, from what I said before the season started, was like to me is like the best thing if you're a Patriots fan is that you don't win a lot of games, but you're competitive. Right?
Yeah, you did say that. Yeah.
So it's like that. It's just like because you don't need first overall or anything, but it's nice to rebuild a team if you have a nice high draft pick, but you're looking like you're seeing the structure's good, because that was the other question is like that I had was like, do we know that Mayo is going to be that the defense is going to be able to continue? Now, obviously, it's like you could say, well, he was a defensive coordinator, but we also know that Bill Belichick was the designer of the defense and he was the train there, and it's not that Mayo wasn't doing a good job on that train. But
Right.
Can he conduct his own? Was
Right.
the real
And I was
question.
going to say that was one of the biggest questions. Like this is now Gerard Mayo's team and his like defensive scheme.
Yeah.
So like, is that going to work? Well, against the Bengals, it did.
Yeah, at least week one. I
Yeah,
mean, again,
and
you never know.
And the Bengals did make some mistakes. Like they had a touchdown called back on a
Mhm.
penalty, and then their dumbass tight end, whatever he was doing with the ball, like up here,
Yeah.
trying to like fancy his way into the end zone, that got punched out. Like Bengals obviously made some mistakes, but like minus those two though, like they didn't move the ball really well at all.
Yeah.
Against that defense. So, and also I'm interested in that game because the Seahawks almost lost to Bo Nix at home in week one.
Yeah, I mean,
That was not a good showing. Maybe not Bo Nix, but that Broncos defense, like they probably should have lost that game.
Yeah, that was oh God. I mean, because that was on for me because it's a local game. So, man.
You're like my poor eyeballs.
Well, watching the Bo Nix. I mean, I think now all the rookie quarterbacks did pretty much terrible. I mean, with
Yeah, I want to touch on that real quick with rookie quarterbacks.
real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Because it is bothering me. It's like we need to stop with this whole notion that a rookie quarterback, even if they're highly touted, is just going to come in and take the league by storm. Because we see it like every once in a while. Like CJ did it last year.
Yeah, but he didn't do it week 1 either. You know?
No, he didn't. And, like the vast majority of rookie quarterbacks struggle even throughout the year. Even if you're highly touted, like Manning threw 28 interceptions in his first year. Like that's insane.
I know.
And like Brady in his first full year as a starter, who had not played his year before, so he was still essentially a rookie, threw 18 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. And like there were times where you were going, "Oh, Brady's never going to be anything but a game manager." We saw what he turned into. It's like, can we pump the brakes on calling some of these rookie quarterbacks careers over? And we did it with Josh Allen. We were ready to call him a bust, and then he figured it out in like year 4. Like, and that's generally how long it takes, especially if you come in and start as a rookie like Allen did. It's going to take you a couple years to like figure that shit out.
Yeah. Now, and also it does depend a little bit on how long you play, because I think somebody like Bo Nix, you're hoping he gets it probably towards the, a little bit faster.
Yeah, because he's like 24?
Because he's played
25?
so many games in college, that it's just about adjusting to the speed and stuff. And even Caleb played, he was there for a good amount.
He was hot garbage on Sunday.
Yeah, I know. But
He
you
was
could tell,
awful.
because I watched some of that too. It's like, you could tell, like, to me, there was quite a few times, it's like, it looks like you're just too hyped up. Like, you're putting way more zip on the ball than you need to.
Yeah.
You're overthrowing guys. It's like, there's just too much energy in you. That you're like, I gotta make it, So it's just like, and I mean, there was a reason, like, I mean, of course he, his team won the game, but he was like the first overall pick to win their first game in like forever,
Yeah, it was insane. It was a really long time.
Yeah, since like the early 2000s, it just rarely like happens. It's just like,
yeah, right. And that goes back to like rookie quarterbacks, even really good ones, are still often struggling their first year, or maybe even first 2 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's just pump the brakes. Sorry, it just drives me crazy by going like, I even heard it earlier, or I saw it yesterday. Somebody was talking about the Broncos going, man, should the Broncos think about moving on from Bo Nix?
Yeah, right.
It's insane. One game.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, Jesus.
Insane. And then he still, like, at least gave them a chance. If they would have gotten the ball back, who knows?
Yeah.
But he did lead that drive towards the end, and ran it in and showed some grit and stuff, which was good.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be that good or not, but it was just like, that game.
At least we got to give him a chance.
I feel like that was a good game for the Seahawks defense. They did a good job, but that offensive line, I mean, they kind of figured some stuff out as a way to protect Geno. They changed up how they did some of their protections and like did more bootleg stuff, and
that's also why I'm interested in this game, because that Patriots pass rush against the Bengals was nuts.
Yeah, and then of course their corners are great too. So
yep, they are. So there you go.
And they're back. That's why I'm New England, interested. And the crowd's going to be hyped because they won week 1. Nobody was expecting that, right? So like
in Cincinnati.
Yeah. So I'm sure they'll be hyped. And there's a lot of Patriots fans, I'm sure they're turning in their brain like, oh man, if this keeps going like this and Drake May is actually really good, you start going, if they're able to turn it over to him, so they're going to be pretty hyped. And
I work with 2 Patriots fans, and they're both from New England. So they were like, we were like, oh yeah, cool, we beat the Bengals. And then one of them said, like, I rewatched it and went, wait, are we actually not as bad as we think we are?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Okay?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
and then we'll see, because I think a lot of people were too high on the Seahawks, and that win,
agreed,
and that win that they had did not necessarily make me go, and made me
that
feel
win,
good about
like,
the defense.
After that win, after that, I was like, how are there people still putting Geno Smith ahead of Brock Purdy in their quarterback rankings?
Yeah.
Like, what is the matter with you?
I know, it's
Stop.
insane. Oh, well, 2 years ago he looked pretty good. Okay.
Great.
One season, great. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
All right.
All right, what's next? What else you got? What else you got?
I think this one's obvious, but Bucks Lions. That should be really
definitely.
fun. Man, Baker was awesome last week. Good God,
Yeah, and this
he
is
looked like a superstar.
and this is why week 2's interesting because it's like, was week 1 the mirage, right? It's like,
right.
was week 1 just everything came together for you? The other team wasn't prepared as well as they could have been. Maybe those teams will get better that you beat. Like
Right.
whatever it is.
Or you're the Saints and you played the Panthers.
Yeah, and then again, everything just sort of clicked. I mean, everything went right for you also
Right.
while playing a bad. It's like when everything goes right and you play a bad team, that's where the blowouts happen, right?
Yeah,
Versus just like,
exactly.
man, a lot of things went wrong, but we won because thank God we were playing a bad team.
Yeah,
But it's like, yeah, but when everything's going right and you're playing the bad team, it's. I mean, even if you're
Yeah.
not a great team, like the Saints probably aren't going to be a great team.
No,
I don't know how many people are walking out of week 1 going like, oh man, maybe we are actually really good. I would imagine
if you're a Saints fan thinking that, you're fucking
yeah, I would
delusional.
imagine even the most optimistic of Saints fans are like, I'm not gonna say anything positive because I don't
No.
know. It's like I hope it's real, not like anybody would ever expect that from week to week, but yeah, for the Bucks, the Bucks. I mean, because the Bucks were a playoff
it's
team,
a
though, so it's
rematch
not like
of. It's cool for the Lions because they're literally playing the first 2 teams they played in the playoffs last year, back-to-back weeks. In the same scenario, they played the Rams first at home, and then they're playing the Bucks at home the week after. So that's kind of cool. That it's literally an exact rematch of their playoffs.
it is, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to watch that game. I think Baker will want some revenge because I think people forget because of what happened in the NFC Championship game. The Bucks were in that game last year.
Oh yeah, way
in that playoff game, and like it took Baker throwing
he threw that.
it took Baker making like one of the very rare bad decisions he made during last year that sealed their fate. But
he
like they
too
were
much.
in that game, so I think the Bucks will be looking for revenge a little bit.
Yeah,
and the Lions could be coming off, beating the Rams. Like maybe they come back down to earth, but Lions are also are at home still. So
yeah.
So that's my only thing is like I went
mean,
back and forth on who I thought I would win when I was picking this game, and ultimately I went with Detroit because I was like, they're at home. If it was flip flopped, I'd go Tampa Bay all the way, especially with how Tampa Bay looked last week.
Yeah.
I'd be picking Tampa Bay all the way.
Man, I will say though, the way the Lions were able to run the ball in that overtime,
oh
it
my
was
god, that
kind
was
of insane. Yeah, they just like
I was
it
watching that when I was
yeah.
watching that. I was like, yeah, Rams aren't getting the ball. This game's
yeah,
over.
it was kind of sad, right? Because you're just like you just overpowering the Rams at the end there. I mean, but good on the Rams with the injuries and stuff that they had to stay in that game.
Well, I was watching that too. I was like, oh yeah, that's where you miss Aaron Donald though too.
Yeah, right.
A little bit.
Yeah. That was something. But yeah, that'll be a really exciting game to see how the Bucks do because like obviously one of the questions for the Bucks was like was losing the offensive coordinator going to be a big deal?
Right.
So far, it looks like no. Again, it's only 1 week, but I mean, and it makes
and
a lot
it was
of it
the
makes
Commanders
sense
who have like, the Commanders have like in place what we think, or at least what I've read and listened to is like might be a historically bad secondary. So maybe that's part of it, but the Bucks are also just really good. Like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are just really good, and Baker finds way to
being
give them
able
the
to
ball.
bring everybody back. I mean, that
Yeah.
helps so much. Now that also helps early in the year too. So like that's where you always have to go like, what's sustainable, what's not. Because early in the year, especially for teams that don't play all their starters and things like that, it's like while they're still figuring out gelling, you already know how to gel because you did it last year. You all did it, and so I think
continuity, man, continuity helps.
Yeah, that can definitely help. But yeah, so we'll see, and we'll see. That should be another good game.
It should be. The only thing I'm worried about a little bit on the Bucks end, which just came out like 2.5 hours ago, but Antoine Winfield is out for the week. There's a couple other Bucks players that are questionable, but they're mostly reserve guys.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Lions. So they're mostly healthy, both healthy teams, like in terms of their starters. But the Antoine Winfield thing does give me a little bit more. That's also why, like, as the week went on, I was like, oh, cool. Now I feel better about picking the Lions because Amon-Ra didn't have a great week in week 1, but now with Antoine Winfield out,
Yeah.
and Jameson Williams having the game that he had last week, maybe the Bucs focus on him a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, and they were talking up Williams a lot throughout the offseason.
They were, and he looked really good.
Yeah,
Sunday
and then
night.
like, well, the hype looks real.
Yeah, I was gonna say
right?
he looks really good. Not to veer off into fantasy, but Adam texted me. He was like, "I'm glad the Lions won because I like rooting for them. But if Sam Laporta could, do something,
Yeah, right.
get more balls for my fantasy team, that'd be great."
Yeah, exactly. And then what's
so that should be fun.
what was the third one that you had there?
Well, I was flip flopping between two of them, but I'm ultimately settling on Bengals Chiefs. I think it might be kind of a trap game for the Chiefs. They're coming off 10 days rest, a big win against the Ravens, and everybody's going to go, yeah, and the Bengals look like absolute crap. They're awful. They're not good. T. Higgins isn't there. But then I would go, that's where I'm going, is this kind of a trap game? Like the Chiefs might be overlooking the Bengals a little bit. And like maybe the Bengals come out a little bit pissed off about how they played in week 1.
Yeah.
And for some odd reason, Joe Burrow always plays well in Kansas City. Don't know why that is.
Yeah.
That whole team seems to play well there. So that's why I circled it. I still think the Chiefs are going to win.
I
but
think
I
so.
would not be surprised at all even if the Chiefs win, like I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's like that regular Bengals Chiefs game that ends up going down to the wire.
Yeah. So maybe you would take the. I
would almost like
it's -6 KC.
If it's -6, I'm taking Bengals +6.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean that should be. Yeah, I'm pretty interested to see how.
I'm
that
interested
game
to see
turns
how
out.
the Bengals bounce back too.
Exactly.
After week 1.
Yeah, I mean, and with all the Chase stuff, now you've got another week, so hopefully that's a little bit better.
Yeah, it is pretty certain right now that T. Higgins is still gonna be out.
Yeah,
so that hurts.
Yeah,
but
it'll be fascinating. I mean, because Kansas City also has a pretty good defense.
They do. Yeah, they really reloaded on defense.
Yeah,
good lord.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see what that game turns out, but yeah, that should be good. Was the other game you were thinking of Chicago Houston?
No.
Oh,
actually, no.
What was the other one you were thinking of?
Rams Cardinals.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
Kyler Murray looked good for the most part last week. Rams looked good. So those games are those NFC or any division game is always usually pretty good. Rams and Cardinals usually kind of go toe to toe with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. I would be interested in Texans Bears too to see how. See how Houston comes.
It's a Sunday night game, so
yeah,
that'll be.
I'd be interested to see that. Like Caleb Williams now not at home, and he's got his first game under his belt. Does he? Well, like you said earlier, does he do his nerves calm down a little bit?
Yeah. He gets a little more focused on it, and also does the coaching help him out a little bit more with some easier stuff, some better. If the run game can do a little better, because the run game also wasn't doing great in that game. Against Tennessee, that would definitely help out.
No, oh my God, they could not move the ball. Well, they couldn't move the ball at all. But
yeah, and then also like the Chicago defense is like, is it actually that terrifying, or is Will Levis that bad?
Yeah, right. So I'm interested to see to see what C.J. Stroud can do or maybe can't do.
And I think a couple other things to touch on too, just like little storyline stuff is was the Sam Darnold mirage? Is that a mirage?
Is it? Yeah, it could be. I mean, the Giants are going to be bad.
Exactly. Yeah,
really
that looks
bad.
like it. Yeah, right.
So that's why,
how soon do you think they go to Drew Lock, the Giants?
If they have another week or two like this, pretty quick.
Yeah, right. That's what I think.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Because it's like if you
and also like how long does Brian Daboll really have? If it keeps going like this,
I don't know. I wonder about Joe Shane more than Daboll overall, but it could be a clean house scenario. Could definitely be happening.
Yeah, I agree.
It's possible. I think it's possible that they make the argument of Joe Shane isn't giving Dayball the support of the players that he needs
Okay.
to succeed. I know Mara, because of watching the Hard Knocks, I told you this on one of our podcasts too.
Mm-hmm.
There was that episode in Hard Knocks, for people who didn't watch it, where John Mara, the owner of the Giants, was talking to Joe Shane, the GM, and about Saquon possibly leaving. And John Mara was not excited about that prospect.
No.
And he was like, I just don't want to see him leave and go across the street to Philadelphia.
And guess what happened?
Yeah. And then he gets 3 TDs. He gets, so if I'm John Mara,
And he looked really good.
I bet
too.
John Mara is
Saquon
just
did.
so pissed at Joe Shane. And that one's not Dayball's fault, right? So
No, right. he has no control.
yeah,
over
I mean,
that.
like, you could make the argument, it's like, well, he should have been pounding the table for Saquon, and things like that. But in the end, it's like, no, I mean, if you're watching, I mean, at least from what we saw on the Hard Knocks end, it's like, that was a Joe Shane, like, if the price isn't right, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to pay that much for the running back. And his team was on board with it and stuff like that. So I think that could possibly, that kind of thing could possibly be a saving grace for Dayball, where Mara's just so pissed at Shane specifically. He's like, I think you're the problem. But I also wouldn't doubt if it ends up being a clean house scenario. But my guess is the way Mara works, that they would probably still let it ride out for the year.
They probably would.
But I think, yeah, like, I mean, because, I mean, they're playing Washington this week. If they look that bad against Washington,
yeah.
I mean, I think you start quickly going, ooh, God, do we need to put in Drew Lock at least?
Right.
Because also, in some people,
because that Washington defense is really bad. So even Daniel Jones should be able to move the ball
something,
a little
right?
bit.
Even if you lose, like, you should see something going on,
right?
Some positive.
Right.
And
like, if you end up losing in like some weird shootout, you're going, okay, cool. We saw something.
Right.
We can do it.
Yeah.
We can do something.
Yeah.
But getting blown out at home by Sam fucking Darnold. Good God.
Yeah.
And then if it's again, like, if Washington walks all over them with a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't want to be in that Giants. I don't want to be in that Giants locker room or anything like that.
No, man. No way. It just seems sad. It's just sad.
It is.
Vibes are not good.
Since we're talking about that and like Sam Darnold, the only thing that weirdly concerns me on Sunday is that the 49ers have not won in Minnesota in 32 years.
It's insane.
Which I know it's like they don't play there very often, but it's like, really? Every time you've gone there in 32 years, you just lose somehow?
Yeah.
And
That's
those have been
crazy.
really good teams that have lost there. I'm like, oh, that is actually kind of weird and kind of scary. Are we going to lose to fucking Sam Darnold?
Yeah, right? Well, he knows the San Francisco secrets for being there last year. Yeah. So there's that. The game itself isn't exciting, but I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of bounce back the Jets have against Tennessee. Apparently, you can get tickets as low as $29, according to ESPN. It's always interesting to see that.
I'm like, I'll put this one on the side, but Colts Packers kind of intrigues me.
Yeah, and obviously that would have been much more intriguing had Jordan Love not get injured.
Yeah, that would have been one of my games of the week if Jordan Love was in there.
But it still has that intrigueness of like, how do they work without Jordan Love? Because this is a sort of like proof of concept and stuff for LaFleur. It's like, who can
what does Anthony Richardson do going into Lambeau? That'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, he'll throw 9 completions for 200-something yards, probably.
Yeah. So, sorry, you were saying something about, like, structure with the
Packers?
For
LaFleur, it's like, proof of, like, my system is so good that, we can at least be competent no matter what.
The only counterpoint I'd have to that was, like, I know it was only one play, but it looked like Malik Willis had no desire to be on that field.
I know.
Like,
getting
none whatsoever.
That was 2 plays. He had 2 plays, I think.
Oh, yeah, 2? Oh, okay. I thought it was just the one.
No, they had...
but it was like that one, the one that I saw, maybe it was just the end of the game one that I saw.
I know.
But it's like the way he was
Hail
running,
Mary.
it just looked like, why am I out here? I don't want to be
the Hail
here.
Mary. It's like, It's like, you just got to throw it up. And he's like,
Yeah, just throw it up, dude. You're at like the 48-yard line of the Eagles. Just throw it.
Oh, poor guy.
But it's also like, that's what scared me, though, is like, you're the backup. You're the immediate backup. You're supposed to be prepared for this.
Yeah. And I mean, and then I guess we should talk a little bit about the Monday night game.
Sure.
Just because it's the Monday night game.
I got Eagles all day. Good God.
I wonder.
mean,
I'm on
I
a wonder.
it's in Philly.
That's true.
Cousins looked like absolute horseshit in week 1.
Yeah.
Even with all of his little toys, and I know it was his first game since, mid-year last year, whatever that was, like November or something, whatever.
Well, and he didn't play in the
and it
preseason.
was against a really good Steelers defense.
See, this is the thing, and that's kind of the thing that I'm curious about.
I see.
Is going to be a really good defense again, which why wouldn't it be? There's no reason for it to not be.
Sure.
And if that's going to be such a good defense again, and I think you've frozen for me, maybe I froze for you. So I'm going to
you froze for
here
me.
for a second.
Yeah, you froze for me.
So if that's going to be a really good defense, then my big question there is he didn't play during the preseason. This is now going to everybody since Fox has been frozen for me for a good 45 seconds. So this is
all right. There we go. We're back.
for the listen. Okay, you're coming back. So I've just been talking to the people. So my question here, then I'm gonna kind of keep talking for a second because it's taking a second for you to get fully back for me. Is that it was gonna probably be an amazing defense. Cousins didn't get to play in the preseason. He's playing with all new people, all new offensive staff for him and stuff. Now, obviously, he didn't look good. It's crazy that they didn't do as much under center stuff, which is what Cousins is supposed to be really good at. So that's concerning that they felt like they couldn't do this. But is there some of that where it's just like, that was a really rough week 1 for you to play with all of these other circumstances? And maybe week 2, it's not like the Philadelphia defense, even with Love not being super sharp.
Gave up a lot of points still.
They didn't.
Like.
They weren't blowing me away. Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you were good.
No, they weren't either. Yeah, and I'll definitely. That's definitely cause for concern.
I expect the Eagles to win. I mean, that would be my guess. I don't think I would be like, what? The Falcons won? Like, I wouldn't be like that just because I wasn't overly impressed with the Eagles. I was overly impressed with the two things I was overly impressed with in the Eagles game for the Eagles fans, in case they're upset at what I'm saying, is Kellen Moore, I thought looked great.
Yeah.
Calling plays, and Saquon Barkley was obviously
Saquon Barkley was so good.
He was sort of the godsend there. I mean, obviously AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, I mean, they're just good players, but
right.
But they had those players last year, and the collapse still happened. So
yeah.
Saquon Barkley is a good vibes man. I mean, he's just a positive guy.
Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help the Eagles.
That's really nice for them. They might need a little bit of that, of just like somebody who's just like this happy-go-lucky. I mean, he was willing to stay with the Giants. That's how happy-go-lucky that guy is.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Now he goes to a potential Super Bowl contender.
Right. And so that could be.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I would like the Falcons to be good.
Yeah.
Because it's just like they have too many weapons to not be.
Yeah, they've got.
I feel bad for their
players.
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel bad for their fans too, because it's like it was Arthur Smith in 3 straight years of 7-10, where you're just like,
yeah, and Arthur Smith also not being a super amiable guy, so it's not even even like you had like a fun coach of some kind.
Yeah. So I am willing to give the Falcons, even though my overreaction was sorry, Falcons fans.
I know, that's true. Yeah.
But actually, like. That it was easy to say that, but looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, like you just said, Cousins, it was his first game, great defense in the Steelers. It was at home, so a lot of pressure on him and all of that. It was Raheem Morris's first game as a head coach. It was a lot to just deal with in week 1. But the Falcons' schedule is not easy. The first few weeks, like they got Philadelphia and then they got the Chiefs, I think, after that. Yeah, like they could very easily start 0-3, and like I know I was exaggerating a little bit when I said their season was over, but it was like if you do end up 0-3 and the Buccaneers somehow end up 3-0, you're kind of done.
Yeah,
they do play the Chiefs next week.
They
play the Buccaneers in week 5. So even if they beat the Saints, if they lose all those games and only beat the Saints, you're 1-4 5 weeks into the season. Yeah, you're almost done.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, well, if the Bucks are looking as good as they're looking, then
Yeah, that's. Oh, sorry, I meant to put that in there.
Yeah.
If the Bucks continue to look this good, and then you come out of that first 5 weeks 1-4 with the Bucks coming out 4-1,
yeah. If the
you're
Bucks
almost
are
dead
in
in the
that
water.
realm, then yeah, now you're in massive,
You're
massive.
you're in
trouble
massive trouble.
at that point. Yeah, that is a pretty rough.
Yeah.
That's
Now the saving grace is that like the Chiefs, Saints, and Bucks games are all at home. Wow, their schedule is really home heavy. They have 4 home games in the first 5 weeks. That's crazy.
yeah.
So if they end up going like 3-2 in that stretch, like let's say they lose to, like let's say they split with the Eagles and Chiefs, and then beat the Bucks and Saints, like then you'll be okay. But there is definitely a path where they end up 1-4. So
Yeah, it's
a
a
little
rough go.
concerning.
That's a rough go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the games that we've got going on this week, and just some of our thoughts on those,
Yeah.
folks. So thanks for listening in to the Brothers Blitz podcast.
As always.
Keep liking and subscribing and tuning in, following us on Spotify or YouTube, so that way you get notifications for when we have new episodes out for you to listen to and hear our vast football knowledge and our sage conversations and advice.
Yeah, there you go. I actually did have a table last night. I was talking to him we were talking about a little bit of college football, but mostly NFL. And he turns to me, he goes, "You watch a lot of football, don't you?"
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, I do.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of football.
Yeah. Some people call us the Greek philosophers of NFL talk.
Do they?
Some people.
I'd like to meet these people.
Yeah, me too. But I'm sure they're out there.
Sure.
It's just
Absolutely,
a feeling. It's just look. Until you talk to all 7 billion people in the world, you don't know if that's true.
You
or
don't
not.
know.
It could be true.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it could be true.
Anyways,
but thank you all so much for tuning in, and keep tuning in. And we'll be back. We'll have some reactions for the next week after the games are done. Those will be like more individual, and then we'll always have our Friday podcast to talk about the upcoming games,
week
of the weekend. So
and recap Thursday night.
That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much, and have a great football weekend.
And good luck in week 2.
Take me back.